everybody, it's Romania Black, and we are on the penultimate episode of Mob Psycho Season 2. It feels good to be watching Mob Psycho, let me tell you, because this season 2 has been so good. I would argue I like it more than Season 1, and that's a hard task to do because Season 1 is so good. I still think there's some episodes of Season 1 that maybe hit harder, but then as a whole, but then there's been moments with like episodes 6 and 7 together are like gold. They're so good. And then from like episode 8 on, it's just been this wild roller coaster ride, and we're just strapped in going, I guess we'll find out what happens. And so when we last left off, Menegishi seems to have been defeated by Mogami. Shimazaki pieced himself right out. And it seems like Serizawa is the only one holding up the fort. He's the last one left besides the boss. And Mob has gone with Dimple to go face the boss, and Serizawa is in his way. So what are we going to do with this? I like Serizawa's character a lot. And I just want him to realize that Show's dad is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I think that's all we need to have happen, right? But I have a lot of stuff for the Reagan Thirst update. There was a plethora come in on Patreon. The last couple weeks on Patreon, the Mob Psycho channel has been very quiet. I think people have just been afraid to spoil. So they've just been like, I'm going to back off so Romania doesn't have like a conniption fit. And like, but ever since like the floodgates have opened with the Ultimate 5, this week was just like fan art. And I was like, yes. So I have a couple comments and then lots with the Reagan Thirst update before we start this episode. It's the penultimate episode. How can we not be excited, right? So Kaylin V talked about the electrical guy, the one with the pigeon on his shirt. They were saying that they talked about with a friend. The friend was like, well, I really don't know how he would be much of a threat because he just controls drones. And Kaylin V was like, yeah, he could also control, like nuclear missiles. And I was like, oh. Like, that'd be a problem. Oh, yeah. I was like, that would be a problem. So, yeah, it's a good thing Show just punched him out. Get him out of the way, because that would be very problematic if he were to control, like, a missile or something, right? And then H-Banana 7, this is going way back to episode 7 and episode 8, when we talked about episode 6 was Poor Lonely Whitey. And H-Banana, I was trying to figure out what the Whitey stood for. Some people said it was white tea poison. Some people were talking about, I thought it had something to do with the Whitey company that Reagan's mother wanted him to apply to, but I didn't understand what the point of it was. And H-Banana said they did some research, did some homework on their time off, and said that in Japan, culturally, there are black companies and white companies. And a black company is often seen as sketchy. They have poor working conditions, and maybe they have like kind of sketchy, problematic boss to employee relationships. And so you don't really want to work for a black company. However, a white company is considered to be the exact opposite. So by Reagan's mother sending him the request saying this is a white company, the Whitey company, it's supposed to be the good choice. Reagan would be needing to choose the good one. So I'm like, I see. The mom's trying to put Reagan down the straight and narrow path, right? But Reagan ain't having that. He's got insurance claims to get, damn it. So I just thought that was really good. So thank you for the comments. But we have a Reagan Thirst update, most certainly. One is this really badass picture. Ask and you shall receive. It was just like the truck on the Discord was like, yeah, so there's a lot of like kind of sexy Shimazaki art. And I was like, of course there is. Of course. He looks like Gohan from Dragon Ball Z if he were in the Full Metal Alchemist world. Of course he is. But I really like this fan art of Reagan in the middle of Dimple-sama, who's like possessed the one security guy from Claw, and then Shimazaki. I was like, I love that picture of the three of them. I feel like Shimazaki has kind of like a trickster mentality to him, and Dimple's trying to figure him out, and Reagan's just like, I'm over you guys. Like, it's great. I loved that fan art. But speaking of Shimazaki, y'all, ask and you shall receive. I was like, is this the Reagan Thirst update or the Shimazaki Thirst update? Because I like the one with his hair down, like all messed up. I shouldn't be surprised. Like, as any fandom would, we're going to have some interesting artwork of attractive male characters. right? And the only female character, well, there are adult female characters in here, but they're not highlighted like Shimazaki and Reagan, right? I also really love the shot of Reagan and Shimazaki kind of like Yakuzas with the jacket capes and the suits on, and Dimple has like, he's the security guy, he's the white tie, the black tie and the white shirt, and Shimazaki is the red shirt and the black tie. It's a very good look. I like it a lot. And then, yeah, these were the tamer ones I could show you all. I'm just like, it's just basically Shimazaki just stripping. No, that was half the Discord one day. It was just pictures of Shimazaki stripping clothes off. And I was like, well, he's an adult. We can have that. But the only two other pictures I have, this one I love, and it's all of the Ultimate Five, and they're gathered under Serizawa's umbrella. He's like, you can stand under my umbrella, Ella, Ella, A. And I like that Minagushi's like doing this against the rain, and the one guy, he's getting like water on his pigeon sweater, and he's like, the Hulk guy doesn't care, he can't get under it. Shimazaki's like scooting her out of the way, and poor Serizawa looks like he needs to sleep. Bless his heart. I put a picture of him from episode 9 in the Discord, and I was like, someone help this man, and it had all these likes on it, so I don't know what that means. Guess we'll find out. So, but I like Serizawa. He's probably, of the Ultimate Five, he's definitely my favorite. I like Serizawa a lot. And then this last one is of Reagan just eating his noodles by his computer. I loved this picture because that's me at work. I don't get very long lunch breaks. I work a lot of times through my lunch break because people just come and go so much. So oftentimes if I take a lunch break, I'm like in my office huddled like a gremlin, and I'm just like, don't bother me, let me eat my food in peace. And so that's where we're at. But that image of Reagan is so relatable. I love it. Somebody was saying in the Discord, I think it was a truck, they were like, oh, Shimazaki is like a hot sexy and Reagan's pathetic sexy. And I was like, Reagan is not pathetic sexy. He's relatable sexy. He doesn't try to be this hot guy with a six-pack. No, Reagan is the everyman. He's the average guy. His charisma makes him sexy. And I was like, that's where we're at. The husbando poll is going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, I'm pretty excited, y'all. I'm ready to go. All right, so let's dive in, shall we? We are going to start Mob Psycho Season 2, Episode 12. I'm so excited, y'all, to see what we get. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1. And let's do this. I do not regret fangirling. Oh my gosh! Ah! Okay, it's fine. Everything's fine. It's just... there's symbolism. There is symbolism. There is shipping. There is amazing animation this episode. Oh, and it's not the finale. We still have Mob versus the boss, Suzuki. We've still got him in the next episode, but I don't care. I don't care. It's like my ship has set sail, flying on the wings of 1,000 butterflies. It's like I need to put it together. I need to pull it together. I thought when I ended the reaction, I was like, Romania, just pull it together. You got this. But okay, look, I've said the last several episodes, and y'all have bit your tongues like saints, like patron saints. You have been so patient and kind with me. But I've said for the last several episodes, I'm like, Serizawa feels like a kid, which we'll talk about. He kind of is. He feels like a kid. He feels like he needs an adult. Not Show's dad, not Suzuki, not the right adult. As Mob says, you're following the wrong person. But he feels like he needs somebody he can follow that can teach him things. And I was like, man, it'd be cool if he met Reagan, because Reagan has helped Mob so much, and Mob kind of seems like Serizawa if they met. And you mean to tell me you mean to tell me that you had Serizawa sacrifice his umbrella, the one security blanket he had, symbolizing his torn, like letting go of a man using him, to save freaking Reagan Arataka. I really hope, and granted, they've been on screen together for 5 seconds. They've been on screen together for 5 seconds, but I hope to God that there is some Reagan Serizawa shipping, because I need this in my life. Just We're gonna talk about it. Obviously, no spoilers for the finale because we're gonna get to that. No spoilers for season 3, what's to come, where we go to from here. But I'm like, I need this. It's like there's been a ship or two that I have immediately been like, nope, shipping. And it's rare. Usually I'm like, okay, I want to warm up and see some interactions between them, right? There's a couple in Chainsaw Man that I was like, within the first 5 seconds of seeing them, I was like, I ship you two together. There's been a couple in Chainsaw Man. There's been a few other random couples here and there. Reagan and Serizawa are by far tying that Chainsaw Man couple for fastest ship ever. Because, no, we will talk about it. It's too perfect. It makes all the sense. One, I should not have doubted you, sir. You know exactly what you're doing. Oh my God. I'm gonna have to put a headphone warning there because it was really like, I was just like, and then by the time the ED was playing, I'm like, I'm just the giddiest girl in the world. But Mob goes through this psychological state twice, and him being similar to Suzuki and being similar to Serizawa, we've got some things we need to make some connections between in this episode because there was just so much that went down. And Bones, I cannot stress enough how when I started this series, when we were on like episode 4 or 5, I was like, man, Bones is really like giving its all for the animation here. And several people in the Discord, Kiri and Wim and several others, were like, yeah, no, this is Bones' passion project. Like this is like they're giving Kyoani levels of dedication to this series, and they love it, and you could tell that they love working on it. And you could just tell the production design and the animation and the quality of the voice acting. Like, everyone loves this series and they love working on it, and the proof is in the pudding. You see it. But this episode, when it got to the point where Reagan showed up with the gun, and right before then, where Mob, like, was fighting Suzuki, it was like cinematic levels of animation. Like, the animation on their eyes and the shading and everything, their expressions, like, it felt like a damn movie. And I was like, what are we doing? And I've been doing good about not coughing, but this is amazing. So I'm going to put Serizawa right here, right? I'm going to put Serizawa right here. Our umbrella wearing man. No more. The umbrella is gone. The umbrella is gone. And I'm going to put Mob right here, Shigeo. I like that Dimple calls him Shigeo. We talked about how Mob means like a crowd and like the masses, and it's kind of a play on that our special protagonist is named after just like a big random mass crowd. But I like that Dimple calls him Shigeo because it kind of makes him feel more special that way, right? And Dimple does view him as special, right? And then we're going to put Suzuki here. I felt bad for Sho in this episode because it's like, that's your son and you just beat him to a pulp because you think he's weak. It's like, you've got some issues, dude. You've got some pent up unresolved issues. And nope. Oh my God, I felt bad for Sho. I felt bad for Serizawa. I was like, and then my ship was born, and I was setting wings with it because here's the thing. I've seen a lot of people say in the Discord that there are some people that ship Mob and Reagan, and I'm like, no. No. The age gap is too much. He's a middle schooler. Reagan's nearly 30. That will not fly. No, thank you, sir. That's not it. Like, Reagan is definitely like older uncle, father figure to Mob, even though Mob has a fully legitimate dad. But I was like, man, I get the mentality that people get in where they want Reagan. Reagan's like the mentor helping the mentee. And I could see that there's a lot of ships, especially like with BL, that have an age difference and kind of play with that dynamic. And I get that. And I was like, but I just can't. Mob's a middle schooler. It's not right. No, won't work. Like Teru and Mob or Sabomi and Mob, like they're all the same age. So it's very wholesome and cute. But Reagan and Mob, no. By the time you aged Mob up to make him an adult, Reagan would be like a middle-aged man, so it's still kind of weird. But that's where Serizawa comes in, and it's the most amazing ship ever because you have all the dynamics of Mob. If you want to have a fixer-upper relationship where Reagan helps someone, like some people ship Mob and Reagan, like doing that, you can do that with Serizawa and Reagan, and they're the same age, so it's perfectly fine. It's like one was like, okay, look, we can't ship Reagan and Mob together. There's too many problems with that. But what if I gave you someone that was kind of like Mob, but 30? It's like, yes, we can do that. We can ship him with Reagan. It makes all the sense. It's so, the dynamic, okay, we need to get in this episode. I've wasted so much time just gushing about this amazing episode. And there's a lot of things going on. The idea, the battle for social rehabilitation, friendship. That's all. It's like, that's the problem, is that I feel like Suzuki, he needed a friend a long time ago, but he's kind of like Light Yagami meets All for One. He does not, his ego is way too much. No. Whereas Serizawa and Mob, they're very similar, so it's kind of, it's fascinating, right? There's a lot of little one-liner throw-off lines that I wanted to focus on in the reaction, but everything was going so fast that I was like, So, talking about how Serizawa and Mob are related, right? Serizawa says, he's like, I don't want you to get hurt. So Serizawa, he doesn't want to hurt others. And that is very similar to Mob, who is the same way. He doesn't want to hurt others either. That's why he told Ritsu and all of them to stay behind. He's like, I don't want them to get hurt either. So you guys stay behind. I'll go take care of this, right? And we find out later why Serizawa went down there. Serizawa, he went down there not to fight Mob. Suzuki didn't even tell him to go fight Mob. Suzuki was beating up Sho, and Serizawa couldn't take it anymore. Like, that's how pure his heart is. That's how like big-hearted he is. He couldn't. But says his problem is that he runs away. He couldn't take a Sho getting beat up. So he grabbed the prime minister and ran away. He runs away from his problems, right? And that is one thing that Mob, our sweet bean Mob, has become rather different in, is that Mob, he tackles his problems. Mob is very genuine and honest, and he tackles his problems. It's like, no, I'm going to face him. We're going to do this. And then when he says, well, you can take this guy back with you. He's supposed to be a hostage, but I feel bad for him. And they're like, oh, that's the prime minister. And then Serizawa's like, oh, you're the prime minister. He's like, oh, I can go? And he's like, oh, go right ahead. Like, he's such a gentleman. No, y'all don't understand. No, I know you do understand, but like, he's such a gentleman, and he's so nice. Like, him and Reagan would be so perfect. Right? Just, oh God. He's like, I just talked to the prime minister. Like, oh my God. And I like the Dimple's sweat drop as he's like, who is this guy? What is going on? He has one brain cell. And Mob's like, you're part of the group that abducted him, but you had no idea. And then we cut to like the bridge and everything. Like they're having this chit chat. He's like, I don't watch TV. So Serizawa, which Serizawa would know nothing about Reagan because he doesn't watch TV. So he wouldn't know anything about Reagan's little fiasco that happened on television. Wouldn't know. So does not watch TV. He would have no clue about Reagan or who he is. It's a match made in heaven, y'all. I'm done. He's like, the public thinks we're bad guys. He's like, but you are though. Shigeo's like, it's not that we think you are. He's like, look at how much damage you've done to the city. He says, oh, it's fine. The president said that most people had already been evacuated. So Serizawa didn't think that anything was wrong with what they did. He thought everything's evacuated. We're just making a scene. And Mob's like, that's not good. That doesn't make it better. And he's like, the president who hired me. He's like, he rescued me from the hellhole that was my life. And then we cut to 3 years ago. Serizawa Katsuya, 27 years old. So we find out that Serizawa, he's 30 now. And when he was 27, Suzuki found him. Which, here's the thing. Suzuki has been wanting to find powerful espers because he doesn't want anybody to rival him. He's been trying to find a rival. Suzuki's a coward. He really is. Suzuki in this episode, I was like, nope. It's that meme where the guys are pointing the painting and they're like, this guy's gotta go. That's Suzuki, right? Because I'm fully convinced that he wanted Serizawa because he was strong and he feared him. I'm like so giddy, it's like made my cough come back. He wants Serizawa because he knew Serizawa was strong, but he knew Serizawa was strong psychically, but he was mentally weak. Like, he was just stunted emotionally. And he's like, I can take advantage of this guy and use him, right? And so we see he's playing like a Bomberman game. Like, Serizawa is a literal time bomb, right? So he was a shut-in. Playing video games. But then how long did they say? They said a specific amount of time. He's there. And he's got like how many millions of points, right? And there's just like ramen bowls and like water bottles everywhere. It's filthy in here. Why have you been a shut-in for 15 years? He's been a shut-in since he was 12. Since he was around Mob's age. He's been a shut-in. Because Mob's like around 12-ish, right? 12 or 13. I think they're 14 when they start school. So he's like almost like a year older maybe. But he's like, you've been a shut-in for 15 years. So since he was around Mob's age, he went and became a recluse, hiding away from everybody. So it's kind of like you had Mogami and Mob and Serizawa. And Mob chose to tackle his problems head on, right? Mogami by becoming people's friends and trying to do good. Mogami saw resentment in what was happening to him and lashed out, right? And then you have Serizawa, who basically just ran away. He was like, I don't want to deal with any of this. I'll just hide and just keep away from everybody. And Serizawa's hair looks different. It's not a fluffy little fro. It actually looks... Serizawa looks... If you took away the bags under his eyes and like cleaned up his face a little bit, Serizawa would actually be kind of handsome. So, Reagan, you got hope. Oh my God. He's like, who are you? My name is Suzuki. Your mother asked me to help you. And the mom like retreats. She's like, okay, bye. Here you are. Now get my son out of here. He's like, another counselor. So, Serizawa, he has had several counselors, like for his mental health, I'm sure. But they haven't been able to help him or offer him any good advice. He's like, just so you know, if you get any closer, you'll get hurt. So he had convinced himself that he just hurts others. But he doesn't want that. Right? I felt for Serizawa in this, right? He says, you'll get hurt. And then Suzuki says, I'm not normal. Or Serizawa said, I'm not normal. He said, I understand how you feel because I'm an esper. And Serizawa says, no, go away. You don't understand. He's like, why don't you tell me how you're feeling? And Serizawa he can't do it. He's like, I said don't say anything else. Like, Serizawa just implodes. He's like, it must be hard not being able to make friends because people find your powers creepy. And everything's like shaking, right? He's like, don't act like you know how I feel. And everything's just bubbling, right? Even the water bottle is like bubbling. And he says, you must have been bullied out of your place in society. And Serizawa says, he just hurt people. And then, yeah, he has like a freak out moment like Mob, where he like has a freak out because he basically doesn't feel like he's part of society because of his powers, right? And he aims everything at Suzuki, and he just stops them instantly. And then we see Serizawa, he's like, I'm an esper too, you see. And he asks him to come with him. And then Serizawa says, I get dizzy when I leave my room. Right? It just... He says, I'm dizzy when I leave because he can't stand... He has, like, crippling anxiety. Like, he really does. Like, he has so much anxiety about people judging him and treating him horribly, right? Which is very relatable for a lot of people. So Serizawa is like, you know, a very relatable individual. But this whole scene reads so much like All for One and Shigaraki from My Hero Academia, where All for One's like, nobody understands you, but I do. Come with me. Like, it reads very much like that Suzuki, he says he understands Serizawa, and he offers the umbrella, right, for security. To be like, oh, well, if you're afraid or you don't think you can, you know, come out in public, here, use this umbrella. And then you can hide yourself. You can shield yourself from the outside world while being outside among them. And he gives it to him. I'm like, it's bad luck to open up an umbrella inside. You should know that. Imagine that when you're under this umbrella, you're in your room. So Suzuki, the umbrella, it doesn't help, right? The umbrella doesn't help. It just simulates that false security, right? Because, and here's the big difference, because Suzuki tries to compare himself to Reagan, and I'm like, oh, honey, you are not Reagan, Arataka, in any means of the words. But he tries to say that Reagan is the same thing. And the difference is that Suzuki just offers this simulation of false security, whereas Reagan would just straight up be like, no, you're going to be fine. Let's get through this together. Like, Reagan would like try to solve the problem. He's just trying to simulate a situation where he can control Serizawa, and it's frustrating. But that image, he's like, don't worry, you'll be fine if you're with me. That image of the umbrella being the light bulb and him holding the umbrella and shielding Serizawa from the rain, and Serizawa's like in his PJs, like his sweatsuit. Like, that imagery, I love that panel. It may be the thumbnail. I love that one so much. It's so good, that image of them together. And then he says, I'll show you how to use your powers, right? So he, like Reagan, lied and lured, well, we're going to say lied and lured Serizawa to use his powers. That part is similar, because Reagan, when they first met, was like, oh, I'll show you how to use your powers, Mob, even though he couldn't. And Suzuki kind of says the same thing. The difference is that with Reagan, he listened to Mob's problem and offered him good advice on becoming a better person. Suzuki wanted to keep Serizawa in this stunted state where he could control him and use him for his own gains. It's like, it's a very different end result. And he said, I became the upper echelon employee of Claw and regained my place in society. So Suzuki convinced Serizawa that he would regain his place in society by working for Claw. And Mom's like, that's weird. He's like, even I can tell it's all kinds of wrong. He's like, you're basically just being used. And I love that Dimple's like, look who's talking. But honestly, though, I don't feel like Mob's really being used the same way Serizawa was. It's just Dimple, you know, being like, well, you know. And maybe that's how Mob can relate to him. Because Serizawa's like, what a horrible thing to say. He's like, you're the one who's horrible. If this is what you're going to do, you should have stayed a shut-in. Like, Mob pulls no punches. Mob is like, if you were going to destroy these people's lives, you should never have come here. You should have just stayed in your room. It's like, oh my God. Mob has all the kinds of sage wisdom in this episode. It's great. He's like, can't you picture the faces of the people impacted by this? Like, Mob is thinking of the big picture, right? Mob is thinking... He's thinking of the result of all these actions and how horrible it is, right? And Serizawa just can't get to that level. It's kind of sad when this middle schooler has more sage wisdom than this 30-year-old shut-in, right? He said the president said world domination always involved certain sacrifices. And then Mob says, but do you believe that? Do you believe what Suzuki is saying? And then, and Serizawa passive aggressively avoids the question. He's like, can you just leave? He's like, I don't want to answer the question that you're asking. And Mob's like, Serizawa-san, you chose the wrong person to follow. You shouldn't have come out with him. And Serizawa gets mad at that and lashes out and actually, like, does some damage. And I like the Dimple's like, are you okay? He's like, that umbrella is shrouded in insane power. We need to get it away from him. He's like, I can relax when I'm under this umbrella. Like, he's just, it's like an addiction, right? And so they try to take the umbrella away from him and he freaks out. It's like his security blanket, right? And then, of course, he hits Mob with the umbrella and then he's like, oh, I'm sorry, are you okay? And, oh, I'm realizing that underneath the jacket and the robe, he's wearing that same sweatpant outfit. He's wearing the same shirt he was wearing 3 years ago, right? And Mob, like, faked to get the umbrella away. And Dimple's like, oh, I got it. I got the umbrella. And then, no. Serizawa freaks out because he doesn't have it. For Serizawa to freak out from going to freaking out about the umbrella to sacrificing it to save Reagan, I mean, well worth the sacrifice, right? Oh my God. He's like, he needs that umbrella. And Mob says he must be incredibly anxious. Yeah. He finally found someone who understood him. He had no choice but to follow him. Yeah, so Mob is thinking, he's like, he never stood a chance against someone who used that to their advantage. So yeah, Mob talks about how Serizawa was desperate for friendship. And Suzuki completely took advantage of him and said he'd give him what he wanted, but it wasn't the same thing. So he's like, I have to tell him. I love that Mob's like, what I love about this series is that Mob does not sit there and just monologue to himself. He actually is like, I need to tell him these things. He needs to know what's going on. So Mob actually communicates, right? He communicates to Serizawa, which I absolutely love. I'm like, yes, tell this man what's going on. And he says, that president of yours didn't give you peace. He gave you the idea that you can't live on your own and change you to the organization. Yeah, so I mean, this middle schooler Mob, he knows what's up. He's like, he basically used you and made you believe that you couldn't be on your own and that you had to be within the organization to do well. Again, that's a big difference between Reagan and Suzuki, because Suzuki was like, oh, you need to work for me in order to be any good to society. Whereas Reagan's like, please work for me to help my business, but he wouldn't chain Mob to the society. I mean, by the end of episode 7, that much is clear. And Serizawa, he's like, are you a counselor? Like, all he can think of is that Mob is like, he knows Mob's a middle schooler. But all I can think of is these people trying to, like, console him, and it's not working. He's like, you can't reintegrate into society in this way. If anything, at this rate, you'll never be able to return. He's like, if you keep getting used like this, eventually people will say you're a monster and you can't go back. Which is what Suzuki wants. Suzuki wants to channel all of his anger and emotion to use for his advantage. And to possibly steal from him, right? Because Serizawa has a lot of energy. Suzuki could steal that. And he's like, and then, man, Serizawa, though, when he says, like, a kid who still has his whole future ahead of him knows how I feel. That was, like, such a moment where he's like, kid, you got your whole life ahead of you. You don't know me. And Mob's like, well, he's like, then tell me, what the hell am I supposed to do? And I like that Mob's like, oh shit. He's like, I'm not a counselor. Was not ready to have this burden unleashed upon me. Sorry about that. He's like, no one understood this power that I was born with. And all the Dimple's just like, oh God. People thought I was creepy and I'd lose control and cause people trouble. And because of that, I'd get scorned and lose control again. Like, I even accidentally sent my mother flying before. Again, he's very much like Mob, because Mob had the thing with Ritsu, where he sent Ritsu flying. Like, he relates to Mob a lot, where he kind of has this power he's afraid of, but he can't control it. And then other people get freaked out, and it's just this cycle, this anxiety cycle with him. I never had any idea when I might lose control. I couldn't even talk to anyone. He's like Mob. He's like back in season 1 when Mob was afraid of his powers breaking loose, so he tried to ignore that he even had them. That's how Serizawa was. He just couldn't even get that far. He's like, I don't know, I just wanted I just wanted friends. And Mob's like, oh. That's when his like energy rises. He's like, I have friends here, espers just like me. And he says that Mob wouldn't understand. Mob's like, well, I've met friends that are espers, but these guys are not your friends. He's like, of course I understand. They aren't your friends. I actually have friends. I like that Mob, a middle school, is like schooling Serizawa, being like, I have friends. You do not. In this case, he's like, that's how I know. They aren't your friends. And then poor Serizawa, he's like, stop saying that. And I like, Dimple's like, hey, he seriously may accidentally hurt you, so I don't know if we should still be here. This seems like a problem. He says, those are the president's orders. The president trusts me. And Mob's like, no, it has nothing to do with trust. He's like, that guy, he's like, you're just being used. And then Serizawa's like, the president gave me a reason to live. And Mob's like, but he doesn't see you as a person. And that's when just Serizawa, his face where he's like, as a person. Like, it's almost like he's asking, can I be viewed that way? I'm like, Serizawa has my heart because I feel for this sweet boy. I want to help him so bad. I'm like, no, he's just this sweet man. I'm like, you gentle shut-in. No, sir. He's like, you said you didn't want to hurt anyone. You're just like me. I know you realize that you're wrong. He's like, I know you realize you're not doing good. You can stop. And then Serizawa like getting tears in his eyes and then firing the power. And he's like, in that case, I'll be your friend. And I love the Dimple! I love the Dimple's like, wait, what? I love that Dimple's like, fight him, Mob! And Mob's like, I'll be your friend. And Dimple's like, wait, hold on. And then Mob became a living Care Bear. and Serizawa was even like, oh, I didn't mean to do this. I shot at him. And Mob just takes all the energy and gives it back to him. He's like, I even went all out. And then he takes the power. This whole moment, it was like a damn Care Bear stare. I was like, what is happening? So basically, Mob has the same power. He can take and use energy like Suzuki. The thing is, Mob has to like rev up to it, and Suzuki seems to be able to turn it like on tap, like a tap faucet, whereas Mob has to like crank it up. Mob has to crank up the bucket from the well, and Suzuki just has to turn the tap on and off. So, and Suzuki has like a solid 20 plus years on Mob in terms of using that power. But yeah, he takes all his power away. And Mob's like, what are we doing? What's happening? And Serizawa's like, are you sucking up my energy? He says, I can sense what you're feeling. Such sad energy. And he's like, you turned it into your own power? He's like, no, you can have it back, Serizawa. Like, he gives it back to him. Whereas Suzuki would take it for himself and be selfish with it. Mob is like, no, this is your power. You can have it back. And he sucks it up through the umbrella. And takes it. The animation in this episode, the animation on Serizawa's expressions, I'm like, no, he may be my favorite. Reagan and Serizawa may be my favorites. I'm like, oh man. And then he sees like he understands where Mob's coming from. He's like, he is the same as me. Oh man. Friendship. Oh, you 30-year-old men. This is why Reagan and Serizawa need to be friends, so they can leave a middle schooler Mob alone, right? Oh my god. This is just this episode. And so we find out that Suzuki is able to give his power to the 600 soldiers, which that should have been in itself foreshadowing that Mob has the same power as Suzuki, because Mob was able to give his powers to Reagan. And he was able to give the powers back to Serizawa. So yeah, I like that Mob relates both to Serizawa as well as Show's dad, right? But man, poor Show. Like he says the experiment to try to give people psychic powers was a failure. It did not work except for like one rare phenomenon. So basically all the other guys, they're all natural born espers. at this point, and these guys are all ones that he's just gave power to, which again was foreshadowed when the power was red surrounding them, which is Suzuki's color. It's like, okay. And he's like, I'm able to absorb others' powers as my own. He's like All for One from My Hero Academia. He's basically the mob version of All for One. Pretty much. This is my true trump card that nobody knew about. And so he says he's going to take back the power that he stole from them. It's a fraction of the energy I've accumulated. Ugh. And then Sho, he's like, my dad isn't human. He's a monster made up of energy. Let this be a lesson, Sho. Though only one absolute being can be the true protagonist of this world. Oh my God. So you have this idea that there is only one absolute protagonist, right? Whereas Suzuki thinks he's the only one that can be the protagonist. Whereas Reagan and Mob believes that anyone can be the protagonist. Like anyone. It's like the OP that your life is your own. Like everyone is their own protagonist. Whereas Suzuki believes that only the most powerful. Suzuki has the Highlander mindset, and Mob is like, no, it's a little bit more shareable than that. And I love that his colors are red. And poor Sho's like an absolute being. Sho is like beat to a pulp. Like his eye is swollen. He looks like hell. Sho looks like he is just like absolutely damaged. And then Mob shows up. And I love that poor Sho is like a parrot mouth. He's like, oh, you're Ritsu's older brother. Right? I love that. Okay. For the record, this little foreshadowing in the middle should have been foreshadowing. Wasn't thinking about it. But it was Serizawa. Suzuki is not under the umbrella with Serizawa. And then we cut to the middle where it's Mob holding the umbrella and Reagan is under it. So it should have been like a little foreshadowing that the umbrella was going to save Reagan, right? Should have been a foreshadowing. Should have seen it coming. And he's like, oh, you're Ritsu's older bro. I noticed throughout this entire episode that Sho never called Mob by his name or by Shigeo. He always called him Ritsu's older brother. He never called him by his actual name. And so I like, at first Rob's like, oh, are you the one that set fire to my house? Did you burn my bed? And Sho's like, yeah, you're probably mad about that, but you should probably run away. He's like, there's no one that can defeat him. And Mob's like, yeah, I'm not mad anymore. I'm sure you have a lot going on. I like Mom's like, you know what? I was mad, but I'm not anymore because you look like you've dealt with some things. So I guess we'll let it go. And Sho notes that Mob has grown. He's changed. He says, look at what your father's done. He says, who are you? I like that, now that we go back and thinking about this, Mob, now that we go back and think about this, I thought from the last episode that Suzuki knew Mob was coming and sent Serizawa to go find him. But that wasn't the case at all. He had no clue that Mob was coming. He doesn't even know who Mob is. Serizawa just ran away because he couldn't stand seeing Sho be beaten up anymore. And he didn't want to see the conflict. And that's when he ran into him. And I can tell he's been worried about you losing control. Because my younger brother was afraid of me too. So Mob understands how Sho feels because he understands Ritsu, right? And I like that Sho just looks so pathetic in this episode. He just looks like a little baby bird. He looks literally like a baby bird. His facial expressions. You make it sound like you know what's going on. I like the Suzuki's like, you make it sound like you know what my family's about. You don't know me. And Mob's like, well, Serizawa-san told me that your son was trying to stop you. And that your son was being beaten so badly that he couldn't bear to watch and came downstairs. He felt so pathetic about not being able to step in. It made him want to disappear. And all Suzuki can say is, oh, he lost? Is that it? That moron, he must have gotten sloppy. Like, that's not it at all. I'm like, what an asshole. Like, Suzuki's the worst. He's like, you're wrong. Winning and losing isn't the be-all and end-all in relationships between people. I love this. I love that the umbrella is beside them when it cuts back to Mob and Serizawa talking. I love that the umbrella is set aside, and it's like Serizawa is in his comfortable space with Mob in this moment. It's so damn sweet. And I just love that they both, it's just like Mom and them were both sitting with their hands on their knees, like in the same way. Like they even relate to each other so much. See, Serizawa and Reagan could take Mom on little get-togethers. It's just, it's like, it was the president who got me out of that room. I'm grateful to him. But why is there a need to hurt people? I've been too scared to think about it, so I've been running away. But if my happiness only came as a result of another's tears, I never wanted it in the first place. Bless this man. Bless this sweet man. He needs Reagan-san. And I just, my heart, I can't. I'm like, Serizawa, no, I can't. He's too sweet. I just, nope. Those tears, him feeling sorry and wearing his heart on his sleeve. He is the type of character I am like head over heels for in stories. And Reagan is so salty that I'm just like, no. He's like, it's sweet and salty, damn it. It's like a sweet and salty peanut butter bar. It's like Serizawa is sweet and Reagan is salty. And it's the perfect combination. You can't make this any better. Thank you for making me realize that. And Mob's like, oh, okay. And, Suzuki's like, trash will never be anything more than trash. I'm like, Suzuki, you are trash. And you will never be anything more than trash. Like, what a jerk. And Mob's like, I like that Mob, like, the bowl cut on Mob's hair slowly lowers. And he's like, excuse me? He's like, so be it. It's not like I ever truly counted on others to begin with. So that's the thing. Mob makes note that our interactions with others make us better and grow. And then Suzuki says that we cannot rely on anyone. So he's clearly like feels like he's been betrayed by the world. He's like, we can't rely on anyone. I'm imagining that if we get more on his backstory, I'm sure that his wife left him or something. Like she just left him with Sho and went away. I could just see that being part of his backstory, right? He's like, so be it. Bonds with others are meaningless. It's like, yeah, he clearly has been jaded. I am whole on my own. And Mob's like, that's not true. He's like, and that's the thing. Mob says that everyone has deficiencies. He says everyone has a hole in themselves. But being with others completes that. It gets rid of that void, right? And this isn't exactly Neon Genesis Evangelion spoilers, but there's a big thematic element of Neon Genesis that is about people not being whole and there being a hole in their hearts. And Neon Genesis kind of takes a very dark, kind of almost at times apathetic approach to that at first, where it's like, oh, there's a hole in your heart. And they kind of take the Suzuki approach at first, saying, although Suzuki says that he's whole on his own. He doesn't need anymore. He says he's whole. But Mob says, no, we all have deficiencies. And like Neon Genesis argues at times that those deficiencies, trying to fill the void with human interaction doesn't always work, which it doesn't. But Mob's like, yeah, we all have deficiencies, but if we hang around people more and we see more people, eventually we'll find ways to fill that void in our heart and make ourselves more complete through others being around us. Whereas Suzuki's like, no, I just need myself to be whole. So it's like two totally different dichotomies, two totally different ideologies towards that. Oh God, I'm sorry, I'm coughing so much. It's like people need other people. Someday you'll need others. And when that time comes, you're surely going to regret things because you won't have anyone around to help you. Right? I love that Ritsu's like, hey, and Teru's like, sup? And Reagan just looks like the poster child, like, yes, I am the biggest figure in Mob's psyche right now. And then we see Tsubomi and all the others. Even the members of Claw, even Mogami. Even Mogami's in the background of Mob's mind. He says, so if you don't have anyone to talk to, I'll be there. Like, Mob's offering a friendly hand to everyone. Mob's like, I'll be everybody's friend in this episode. He's like, even you big asshole. And then the dad's like, oh, you want to be a shoulder I can lean on. Save that kind of talk for the weaklings of the world. And I like that show says, hey, he can steal energy, so maybe don't hold your hand out. That might be a bad idea, right? He can steal it and give it to others. On top of that, he's got a massive stock of energy himself. And Mob's like, hey, you're not doing so well. Here, have some of this energy. And Sho realizes, oh, you just basically did what my dad can do. You just gave me energy. And it should have hit that has been something Mob's been doing this whole time, but it didn't. It didn't hit me that his power is just like Suzuki's. But when Suzuki realizes, he's like, he has the same power as me. He's like, he could be an enemy. He's like, you should evacuate too. And then, yeah, he's like, I have acknowledged you as my enemy. And man, that red in his eyes, the animation. So Suzuki realizes, you are my ultimate threat because you are just like me. So it's like, as Almine in Croco's basketball would say, the only one who can beat me is me. And that's the case with Mob, right? Oh my God. So yeah. And then he just pushes Sho away and tells him, and then he's like, this middle school child, this 13-year-old has become my mortal enemy. Or he says he has the potential to become my mortal enemy. I'm like, Mob just offered to shake your hand and be your friend, you douche. He doesn't want to become your mortal enemy. Grr. And I like that he just punted Dimple out the window. He punted Dimple out the window. And I like that. Meanwhile, we cut back to Reagan and all of them, and they're like, was it really a good idea to let Kageyama-kun go off on his own? And Ritsu's like, well, my brother's never shown this kind of authority before, so it's probably not a bad thing. And Teru's like, yeah, no, that's true, but he looked like he was in pain too. Like, I love that Teru is so perceptive. I'm a little bit of a Teru Mob shipper, I'm not gonna lie. Quite a bit. He's not usually the type to fight. What do you think, Reagan? And Reagan's like, well, Mob seems unreliable, but his strength is undeniable. It's not just his telekinesis, but it's just the fact of how he knows he's able to tell people exactly how he feels and speaks to their heart more than any niceties. I like that he's like, Mob can reach people's hearts, and as long as he expresses himself, he can touch you in a way that is genuine and pure, kind of like what he did with Serizawa. Except Suzuki is like just a total douche and cannot be reached by words alone. But I like that Reagan like has so much faith in Mob, and he's like, no, he'll be fine. It's all good. And that's when he sees Dimple, like just the little shred of Dimple flow down into his hands and realizes that things are grim. And that's when Reagan's like, well, damn it. Mob could die. And that's when he asks Sakurai, he's like, Four Eyes, you got a sec? And he takes his gun. I was like, I wondered what Reagan was going to do with the gun, because I'm like, can he actually shoot him? I think his psychic powers are going to stop it. But I was like, I thought Reagan was going to get close to Suzuki and like kick him in the gonads. I thought he was just going to kick him in the balls, and that was going to be it. I thought that was going to be like his cosmic nut punch or something like that was going to be like one of his secret moves. But what can we do? And then he goes back to, and then Suzuki's like, bonds with others are meaningless. Why should we even talk? And Mob's like, well, that can't be true. Everyone lacks something. And we go through that whole thing there. And Suzuki's just talking about how his power surpasses everybody. And now that he's realized that, he realizes that he can have the whole world to himself. He's like, leaving you living a boring life just like the powerless. Why would you do this? Why would you not claim everything for yourself? And Mob's like, no. He's like, I'm moving forward. You're the one who's like stopped in middle school. You stopped developing and you're just basically an adult baby. And Suzuki, he's like, there are far more unique people in the world than you think. And he's like, and I'm lucky to have met all these different mindsets. No one should be able to place a value on someone else. Yeah, he's like, you can't call people weak or strong based on just what you see on the outside. He's like, that's not cool. Everybody is unique and powerful in their own ways. And Suzuki's like, well, don't you sound like you're in the moral high ground? And it's like, yeah, this middle schooler is schooling you on morality, sir. That's just how we do. And Suzuki says, I have no need to rely on others to make up for my deficiencies because I have the ability to steal and use and rule. And we see like all the scars falling down at his feet, right? My goal is to leave a huge mark upon this world. And I love the symbolism of that because it's like you see all the people with scars at his feet, like he's left a mark upon them, like his mark. And now he's like, I'm going to do the same for the entire world to let them know who I am and see my power and know that they can't stop me. And Mob's like, welp, nope, that's not going to work. I like that Mob's like, this guy's really bad. I should probably do something. And shows like Ritsu's bro, don't worry about him. Don't worry about me, just finish him off. And then this line, where Suzuki's like, I thought about letting you inherit the world I was going to take over. But you're just a failure. And that, the way that his face is drawn and like the gleam in his eye, God, it's animated so well from here on in. And I feel so bad for Sho, because Sho in that moment, he's just like, when his dad calls him a failure, like at the end of the day, Sho's just a kid. And for his own parent to call him a failure, it's like, that's so awful. Like, I want Sho to get adopted by the Kageyama family. Screw that business. Like, Sho, get away from this asshole. Get adopted by the Kageyama family. It'll be perfectly fine. They will take you in. You got them a resort to a hot spring. They're gonna be fine. They will adopt you. It's just so sad. And Mom's like, hey, leave him alone. And then, yeah, God, the animation in this part. He's like, are you angry on Sho's behalf? And Sho's like, oh, Mom stood up for me. I'm like, yeah, now you know why Ritsu's all about him. You truly are a child. And Mom's like, be quiet. Show me everything you've got. Oh my God. This is bad. Like, Mob getting beaten up. The animation in this is just absolutely gorgeous. Even though it's terrifying and Mob, like, cannot put up a barrier to stop Suzuki. Like, Suzuki, sir, you are an adult beating up middle school children. Seems like such a problem. And then I like that he's about to, like, wreck Mob and Reagan. Reagan's expressions in this scene! Reagan's expressions with the gun. Because you know the gun's not going to do anything. But this is like, again, Reagan is the adult of all adults, whether we like it or not, in this scenario. And it's like, only an adult could use a gun in this scenario, and Reagan's the one to do it. And he's like, it's loaded, by the way. Like, his expression, he's like, Sakurai's Jugen. And Suzuki's like, you can't threaten me with that. Bob's face, where he's like, Master, oh my God. That look, that face he makes. And I like that Reagan's like, hey, Mob. Like, he's trying to hold it together and be strong, right? To be strong for his pupil. And then, that line, what a badass line from Reagan where he's like, hey, Mob, and just fires it at him. Oh. Yeah, and then I like Suzuki's like, I don't sense any power from you. So, once again, everyone is baffled by how much balls Reagan Arataka has. He's like, why are you here? He's like, you'll stay out of this if you know what's best for you. Reagan looks so badass in this moment. I absolutely love it. And I love that Reagan, like, the slow tilt of the eyebrow. And Suzuki's like, what the hell? He's like, you don't... I like that Suzuki's like, why don't you get how powerful I am? And Reagan's like, I've seen bad enough. Reagan's so ballsy. I love it. And just throwing Mob down. I love that he's like, hey, are you alive, Mob? He's like, I don't know what I was thinking letting you go off alone like that. I think my ability to think was impacted by all the unnatural things going on. Reagan's like, I was too distracted and kind of stressed, and I wasn't thinking when I let you go off by yourself. He's like, I shouldn't have done that. And then he says, I've failed you as a master. I'm like, oh God, the expressions! Bones. I freaking love this episode. And Mob's just like, no. He's like, you did well. I'll treat you to some takoyaki on our way home. I just like, Mob's like, oh. And then Suzuki, like, Mob's just like his master, like, he's just so, it's so emotional. And Suzuki, like, this is the one time Suzuki's kind of like, master. Like, he's kind of amused. It's like the one moment where Suzuki looks mildly amused in this situation. even though you can't even see how powerful I am? He's like, why aren't you baffled and bedazzled by me? What is this? You're someone who tricks and steals from others. And Reagan's like, well, this is kind of ironic because this is the one situation where we are not the same. No, sir. He's like, if you ask me, you can only see powers that can't be seen. It's like, I feel sorry for you. And I like that Reagan says he feels sorry for Suzuki. He basically finishes the conversation that Mob starts. It's absolutely wonderful. I'm saying ESP isn't the only extraordinary power that people can have. On top of my head, I can think of 4 ways to defeat you. I love that he's like, Reagan, like, he lures you in, right? He hooks you in. He's like, I can beat you 4 ways. And then I like that Suzuki's like, well, go on, show me. Reagan is the ultimate showman. He lures Suzuki in. He traps Suzuki in the moment. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? And Reagan's like, oh, no. I could tell you the 4 ways, but I'm not going to do that. No. Why would a master con man reveal secrets? He says, will you let me join you? Like, he says it just so he can get close to him. And Suzuki's like, what good does that do me? Like, he's intrigued. He's like, I'll be easily able to persuade my student who's unconscious, as well as all the guys outside. That should be reason enough. Let's hear about those methods of defeating me as well, if you actually have any. He's like, I'll fill you in on some powers other than ESP that you don't know about. And of course, Reagan's main, it's worked up until this point. Up until this point, it's worked where Reagan's just, physically assaulted every Esper he's found, and it's managed to work. And brute strength, you moron. But that was not enough. And he's like, I guess I can see how you two are master and student. What a ridiculous combination. And Reagan's like, wait a minute, I give up. I like that Reagan immediately rises like, oh shit, this is a bad idea. He's like, I'll do anything that you ask. And Suzuki's like, I'm in a really bad mood because of you. And oh my God, Reagan's like, well, and I was like, there's no way Reagan was going to die. But I was also like, how are they going to save him? Like, it's one of those situations where he's not going to die, but you're like, is Mob going to think he's going to die and blow up? How does that work? And then y'all, my brain, Romania Black.exe short-circuited, very much short-circuited in that moment where I love that what blocked the attack and saved Reagan was Serizawa sacrificing the umbrella. The umbrella was sacrificed, right? And Ritsu's like, man, Reagan, what's going on up there? And that's when he knows that Serizawa was courageous. And he says, he's like, I made it in time. And Reagan's like, who just saved me? What? I love it, Serizawa. He's like, I made it in time. I tried to be courageous for once, President. I like that Reagan's like, excuse me? It's love at first sight. Serizawa saving Reagan. I'm like, a ship was born. He sacrificed his umbrella. He gave up the umbrella, his security blanket, for Reagan-san, who will become his new security blanket. He sacrificed Reagan to be courageous. I was like, you can't get rid of him after this episode. No, he has to stay around. No, I don't want this to be a one and done character. I don't want Serizawa to leave after this season. No. I don't know how it's going to happen. He's like, I see now that you've completely betrayed me by now. And at the end, he's like, forget it. And that's when Mob's like, enough talk. And then he like has like the 100% rage. He's like, no. And I like Suzuki's like, oh. I like Suzuki like immediately knows that power. It's like, let me tell you one last thing. Those who don't understand the feelings of others, never mind. He's like, it's not worth talking to you. You won't get it. He's like, no. He kind of does the Mogami thing. He's like, sometimes they need to learn hard lessons. And in this case, Suzuki is one of them. And like, his black hell spear opens up in front of them, around them. Like, just completely comes out of nowhere. What the hell? You need to sometimes truly hurt to understand. He's like, you haven't suffered. He's like, you've been really strong your whole life, so you've not suffered the way that others have. He's like, nah, I need to teach you a lesson. Oh my God. And Tara's like, yeah, that'd be... I love that Tara and Ritsu are calm. They're like, yep, that's Mob. And Dimple's like, oh my God, it's Mob. He knows what's up. And Reagan's like, Mob lost it. Mob's lost it. And I love that Serizawa says, is there anything I can help with? Bless these two. Let my ship live. Let my ship live so bad. I need this. I need it so much. It's like, let this be a ship, please. Please, Mob Psycho. I need these two men together. My heart needs this. He's like, can I help with anything? Like, just... And he's like, oh, and then Mob, who looks like a damn shonen protagonist, says Serizawa's on take my master and the others and evacuate. I'm gonna fight Suzuki. Suzuki says punishment comes first. And I love that Reagan is like... And Serizawa's like, oh no, like Serizawa looks so sweet. He kind of looks more handsome there, right? So he just needs to cut his hair, shave his face, and he'd be really handsome. Okay. And then Mob jumps right in the middle to stop it. Shigeo-kun. And then I love Reagan's like, I don't have psychic powers. I'm going to die. I've fallen off the roof. I'm going to die. Help me. Sho and Serizawa are falling, and then Minagishi comes in clutch, being like, well, let's save everybody, shall we? Oh my God. I like Reagan's like, oh, thank God. If you look, the moment Reagan's caught, he's like, okay, he looks back up to Mob to see like what's going on. Oh, Reagan, oh my God. And so Minagishi seems like he's only helping because Serizawa was tossed aside, which is rather interesting, right? Like, once the boss tossed aside his main member, he's like, okay, maybe he has gone off the deep end. I also love how Teru looks over to Minagishi like, oh, you. Oh, yeah, you. That's right. He's like, who? Oh, he doesn't know who Serizawa is. Sorry, but I owe him one. So somehow Minagishi maybe owes Serizawa something? That's interesting. Curious. I want to know more. And then the one guy, what is his name? Hattori. Hattori is the pigeon shirt man. Hattori. So Hattori is there and he's okay. All right. And all they need is Samazaki, right? All they need is Samazaki. And because it was Minagishi, Hattori, Serizawa, and then the Hulk guy. That's all they really need. And then Suzuki's like, well, anybody can betray me. And it's like, are you freaking serious? And so he sounds like a character of a Death Note where he's like, disappear, disappear. It's kind of like he's saying delete, delete. And he says he's only using 10% of his powers to fight Mob. Oh my God. And he's like, is that your 100%? And then Mob's like, well, I'm going to get you out of here we're going to take this battle elsewhere with this spire. I'm just like, what the hell? And then, oh, that's such a money shot where he's like going to fight him. Oh, I need that image of Mob. That's so perfect. Oh, it's so badass. The animation in this episode, the expressions, the shipping. I talked for an hour. Oh my God. This is my favorite episode so far. This is my favorite episode. No, it is. It's my favorite episode. I can't help it. It's my favorite episode. It's so damn good. Y'all, this is wonderful. This was the best. I loved this episode so much. And I now have a ship. I have a Mob ship. I've never felt comfortable with Mob and Reagan as a ship. Dimple and Reagan was fine, but it's Dimple and Reagan. It's still a fine ship, but this dynamic is my jam. And I feel like, when you watch a show and you have just like one pipe dream and you're like, maybe the show will let me have this, and the show's letting me have this. I can't wait. So yeah. Yes. I'm very excited to see what's going to go down in the season finale of season 2. I don't know how it's going to top this. This episode was pretty damn special. I don't know how it's going to top it, but it's Mob Psycho. Every episode this season's gotten better and better, so I'm just going to be along for the ride for when it happens. But, oh my gosh, y'all. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts down below. Please no spoilers, but I'm really excited, y'all. I hope y'all enjoyed this reaction discussion. Have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yes, I will be back very soon with Mob Psycho Season 2, Episode 13. The season finale next week. Bye, y'all.